My name is Ashish Gupta. I've been associated with Jaguar Land Rover for 8 years. I've been a lead instructor with Land Rover Experience for 4 years. I'm very passionate about Land Rovers. I own a 1955 Land Rover Series 1 and I've owned a Defender 110 TD5 for many years in India. I'm here hosting this session today in my capacity as a Defender enthusiast, and I'm really excited about the Defender coming to India. Joining me today will be Hormazd Sorabjee. Hormazd needs no introduction. He's one of India's leading automobile journalists. He's an expert on everything automotive, very knowledgeable, very passionate. He's on the jury panel of a number of renowned automobile awards. He also has a very large social media following, and I'm one of his fans on social media.
Thank you.
Welcome, Hormazd.
Thanks, Ashish. And I mean, of course, I know your passion as well, and I think I can understand it. Having just driven the new Defender, to be honest, I'm not such a fan of classics, but this is one car which has had such a phenomenal heritage. Drove a Series 1 myself in the UK many years ago, and I can just see how important the legacy of this brand is.
Right. But before anything else, Hormazd, you were the only representative of the Indian media who's had a chance to test the new Defender extensively, and that too in Namibia. And that's something we'd love to hear about today. So tell us all about that.
Well, I mean, it was really a trip of a lifetime, and my last international trip before the lockdown. I haven't taken an international flight since. In fact, just took one after that, which was from Delhi to Bombay, and haven't been on a plane since. So I think that's a real memory that stays with me, not because it's the last one, but I think this is possibly the most incredible drive I've had. I've driven in. I've been fortunate to drive on 6 continents. Driven all over the world, driven in 70 countries, and this I think really tops it. Not only was the country absolutely beautiful, the way the route was curated, and just the way the Defender handled the terrain, I was just completely blown over. And especially that Van Zyls Pass, which is quite infamous when you go up there and you see all the vehicles which have fallen down. It is a bit scary actually. And the way we literally tiptoed over it, averaging about 10 clicks an hour. So you would know how challenging that is. But really the articulation, the ground clearance, everything. And, with the right eye jacked up full, you had these massive boulders sticking out from underneath. And, you would kind of, brace yourself for impact. But just sail through. I mean, it was just staggering. I think that was, to me, from that whole trip, was really the most defining moment for the car. But otherwise, it was an amazing country. I mean, we did about, I think, 700-800 Ks. And I think just about maybe 10 Ks was on tarmac. So you can imagine the kind of terrain we went through. And it was everything from sand to rocks. You just had the works.
You did cross a few streams as well. I saw some videos.
Yeah, we did. Absolutely. In fact, we didn't cross a stream. We actually drove up some of the river. It wasn't crossing. It was like literally going, because that was the only way out. And that was really, again, absolutely staggering. Just the kind of traction it had, and just the ease with which it did it. I've driven a lot of other 4x4s, which are also capable, to be honest, but the thing which defines the Defender is the ease and the comfort with which it crosses this terrain. And I think that's really what is quite amazing, that it's you don't have to work hard at it. You can just do it absolutely like you're in your living room.
Right. And you had some pretty long days as well, right? Lots of driving, and not just in terms of tough terrain, but just in terms of number of hours behind the wheel. So that's probably the other point about the Defender, which I've been trying to sort of figure out, that the big change is the ease with which you can drive it, and the number of hours you can drive it without sort of getting fatigued and feeling the strain.
Absolutely. I think it is. We had about 12-hour days, so literally starting early, driving across, basically desert. It's largely a desert country, Namibia. No roads at all, just driving on general tracks in the sand.
Mhm.
I mean, it is quite daunting actually because there's absolutely nothing around you. You can kind of lose your bearings. Fortunately, it was really well arranged, and we had the pilot car and just follow it. So going in convoy, especially around the Skeleton Coast area, where
Mhm.
it is actually you're driving in wilderness, and you've just got wildlife for company. You've got oryx, you've got elephant, you've got giraffe, you've got everything. So it was
Wow.
just didn't see any wildcats, unfortunately. I think maybe we scared them away. But the thing is, it wasn't tiring at all. But to be honest, your adrenaline's going so much that
All right.
frankly, I love long drives, and though I'm getting on right now, it doesn't tire me at all. In fact, you kind of at the end of the day, you're on a high. But I just think again, it was effortless. That was the whole thing. We thought something would be daunting. It wasn't, and I think that's really the standout experience for me.
And what all did you use in terms of technology? The this terrain response, new modes, and the air suspension. I mean, what all did you really need to use to
Well,
cover that?
I think Van Zyls really kind of tested it to the max. We
Mhm.
obviously were in the terrain response, and we were in
Low
in
range.
rock, in mud, and we had the suspension right up full
Okay.
290 mm. So it was in max ride height because clearly you did need every millimeter of it, to be
Mhm.
honest, because there were really massive boulders you had to crawl through. And I think what was really amazing was the articulation. I think that's was a true test of that. And just the traction it would have, just clambering up. And I mean, there was never a moment, you thought, I didn't have any issue of, getting bogged down. Though I believe at some points earlier, people did, there was some flash floods, but we didn't experience, having to divert our route or anything because of that. So yeah, all the modes, sand mode, of course, was great, and just generally the traction was there. I mean, uh, the two engines we had a diesel, had the D 240, and we had the
Mhm.
P400. P400, the mild hybrid petrol.
Wild
That
hybrid.
Yeah, that was really amazing and very seamless power delivery. Pretty effortless, and yeah, I think so. In that sense, there was never a moment I thought like, "Hey, I'm gonna get stuck." The initial first day, you felt that was the case, but then you started getting a bit blasé as to what all you could do. And
Right.
on the third day, when we were in really deep into the Skeleton Coast, where you're literally going over sand dunes and embankments, and just literally following a bearing, and then there's no road and there's just a river. So you get into the river and drive upstream for a couple of clicks, get off again. Really, really crazy stuff. I've never experienced anything like this. It's just absolutely just phenomenal.
Just on the Vanzals Pass, I mean, what? I mean, I've never been there, and it's clearly on my bucket list. But what's more difficult? Is it a very steep gradient going up, or is it really steep on the way down?
I think it's both because you get a bit of both whichever way you go. But
Hmm.
I think the gradient is steeper going down actually
Okay.
at the end
Okay.
of it. And clearly, it's the usual thing, feet off everything, the safest way, which I think you as an off-roader will know that you just let the electronics do their bit and just inch down, and it was absolutely okay. Just the steering also, just feed it in. You can sense the terrain, where to steer, and how to kind of let's say navigate across, let's say, literally chunks of rock. But I think it was just. I think that was, how would I say, a real proof of the way the electronics worked really, and it really in terms of traction, the way the diffs were locking, everything was just made sure that you just had the traction you needed.
There's a lot of help with cameras as well, right? Even the clear sight ground view in front and the cameras all around. So Did you really need somebody to spot for you, or you could sort of just make
Well,
your way through with the cameras?
we could make our way through with the cameras for sure, but I mean, to be honest, they had spotters in front of us, so it made it
Uh-huh.
easy. Made the cameras in a way redundant, but I mean, cameras were a great, obviously, especially the one literally under the car going forward. You can see a rock as
Yes,
you as you as
yes.
you as you kind of straddle it.
Yeah, the
That's
clear
really
side.
very
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
So that was yeah, but I didn't I think it was it, it it just wasn't, to be honest. I don't mean to sound let's say someone who's done this all the time, but it didn't seem that difficult at the end of it. You just it was more in the mind. You just had to kind of have full faith in what the car was doing, and then just kind of, as I said, inch up and inch down, and
Yeah.
I think just stay off the brakes, stay off the throttle, going down, which is just the way to do it.
Maybe the vehicle made it look easy.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that this time you said you were in a convoy and there were people to guide you, and it was good that you had people who knew where you're going. But would it be fair to say that if you were to do this alone, all alone, the same route or maybe something similar in Africa, you would be confident of doing it in the new Defender?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no question of that. Though I think I possibly don't have enough experience, or let's say to. I would hesitate on certain parts where the kind of yeah, just the terrain is looking a little too challenging. I mean, it is something that is daunting, especially when you've got drops on one side really going down, and it's a massive lateral incline as well. But so that is a bit. I mean, I would always like someone to spot for me, but I think if push came to shove, definitely, it's not such a big deal. It's just more in the mind. I think sometimes your heart tends to give up more than, let's say, what the vehicle could. And I think that's the beauty about off-roading. You can kind of get a thrill at walking speeds.
Awesome. You've given me something new to add to my bucket list. It keeps becoming longer and longer, but I must get there
Yeah,
somehow.
Van Zyls, you must do. I mean, it
I
is
must get,
really
yeah,
hardcore stuff. It is really
somehow,
hard.
somehow. Though
Yeah.
I must say, I have had a chance, not as extensively as you have, but we got a chance in January to spend a day with the new Defender at East now, and it's very similar to what you're saying. I just loved it, and right when I sat in it for the first time, just very similar to what my Defender 110 was like. The command driving position, I could see all around. There was really no sort of areas or blind spots apparent, which I was uncomfortable about. And I loved the selector, the command shift, the gear selector mounted on the dash. That was
Yeah.
just so different and unique, and the
Yeah.
exposed cross beam and stuff. And we drove a little bit more on road as well. I mean, you said you had hardly any metal
Yeah.
roads in
We,
India.
we did we did drive on road, and honestly, that was also really impressive because these kind of vehicles are not designed really to. I mean, with such a high center of gravity, just you do expect a lot of body roll. The steering feel kind of give you a lot of reassurance,
Hmm.
and there was none of that kind of vagueness around dead center, or it was moving around. So though it was, you could feel that this car is top heavy, no doubt about it. And don't forget, we have the Explorer pack also on it, so that kind of adds to the CG, or makes the CG even higher. It wasn't really something that you think you're in the QE2 or something, or trying to navigate something like that. So I think the steering also on tarmac, really really good feel. But there's no doubt it is a bit top heavy.
Well, you tested it. I think you switched off the dynamic stability control and tried to throw it sideways a bit. I saw a
Yeah.
video of that.
Yeah.
So obviously it gave you the confidence that it won't roll over.
No, I mean,
Uh,
that's true. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is you have a lot of confidence in it, though you know this is a high car.
Right,
That's the
right,
beauty of it.
right,
So
right,
I mean, you
right.
can't take that away from it. It's not that difficult. I mean, there are body on frame cars are a lot taller to get onto. So
Hmm.
in that sense, even the
Right.
access is pretty good, especially in access mode, when
Hmm.
it's dropped all the way down. So I think what I want to say is that the versatility of the car, even as an all-purpose car, I think that's really what has also stood out. Though at the core of it are very hardcore off-roading credentials, but that hasn't necessarily come completely at the price of certain practicality and usability in let's say urban conditions.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was trying to say about our drive at Eastnam. Within the estate, we got a chance to drive on some metal roads, but those metal roads were in a bad shape, lots of potholes, etc. And I was surprised as to how on road it just seemed to absorb everything on the road. And I think maybe it's just the bigger wheels and the whole setup of the vehicle. So it's very well suited for uh, bad roads, and I couldn't keep thinking about back home as to how it's gonna
Yeah,
sort of be far more comfortable driving it on not just off road but on a bad road as compared to what my Defender used to be like. Off road, I really wasn't very surprised because given its legacy,
that's right.
uh, it did everything that was expected. I mean, it defended its legacy in a way,
Yeah,
and we did some interesting stuff at the experience center.
yeah. And,
Uh,
and and he's
but
not in hallowed ground really. I mean, so
yeah,
I can
yeah,
imagine that it's really extreme stuff there as well,
yeah,
but in a different
and
environment. Yeah, with
and
a
and the best part off road was at night. We were given a chance to take it out on the grounds at night, and you couldn't see anything. But that's when these whole driver assistance packs just came to life. The cameras, the resolution,
yeah,
you could see the entire vehicle projected on the screen,
yep,
and with your finger, you could flick it around and see clearances on either side, and we could just drive in
yeah.
pitch dark. So that was really amazing. I think the cameras have really evolved
Yeah, and even the,
a
the
lot.
PV Pro,
Oh
which
yeah.
kind of debuted on the Defender, very very usable. Though I still prefer a lot of hard buttons to be honest. But honestly, I mean the kind of features this had, it was amazing. I mean it was great to play around with, and there's just so many functions. It just really packs a lot in that screen.
Right, you mentioned the Explorer pack, and that reminds me when we finished the drive in Isla, we were taken to a room and they had these four vehicles there and they were kitted out with different packs. And there was a lot of other accessories lying around as well. So it just amazed me as to how the way in which you can customize this. I mean, it's almost like an extension of your own personality. You can choose, right from the add-on packs and the tents and the ladders and so many other things in the vehicle, which is just so much more interesting and different from the other
Yeah,
vehicles
I
before.
mean
But you,
the way I tested it was just clambering up the ladder,
uh-huh.
for a quick picture. Really quite easy, and you really feel like on top of the world, literally standing on the roof, which is quite solid. So yeah, I mean, I think I would imagine that's going to be quite a popular accessory. I don't know how much it would be, how popular it would be in India, but I think in Europe and UK, I'm sure these it would be well used because I think people really like to go out in the wilderness in that.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned driving the Series One, so let's just talk a little bit about that. And having driven the Series One, and how was that? And do you sort of see anything which is carried forward in the legacy?
Well, it was a very short drive to be honest. It was very very really a short drive. But I think what really again stood out was just the kind of traction you had in all conditions. I mean that really does stand out. I mean. You don't get the feeling you're going to get bogged down. There's enough torque, just the way the four-wheel drive system works. I know it's very basic, but just the way it's configured, the fact that you've got so much clearance, angles of approach and departure, and things that would look daunting just seem to be quite easier, quite a bit of quite a cakewalk. To be honest, it wasn't super extreme stuff, but it was enough to kind of give you a sense that it is, what the legacy is about, and you just don't have to really flinch at whatever terrain comes at you. I mean, I would have liked power steering, so that's for sure. you know, but yeah, I think it is. There's a certain appeal in that vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I have the Series 1, and it was probably very functional at its time and did the job. Those vehicles were really advanced even then. I mean, my Defender, it had an independent suspension all around, it had disc brakes all around, it had low range, differential lock, anti-stall. So it was amazing that, even today, a lot of manufacturers making vehicles don't have all of that. And the earlier Defender 2 had it, and the Series 1, with four-wheel drive and the differential lock and the low range. So yeah, they're great. I love them, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that now there's a more complete
yeah.
package, which has all of this. But apart from just the driving, in terms of the look and feel of the vehicles, the old and the new, what's your view? Because a lot of people have been comparing and talking about the fact that the new one does draw upon the legacy, or it doesn't. So I'd just love to hear your views on that.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Again, I'll be honest. I mean, the old one, yeah, it had a very iconic look, but the new one for me is just such a phenomenal interpretation, a modern interpretation, of the
Exactly.
original. And I think Jerry's done just a mind-blowing job of keeping that. And what I really like is if you see the overhangs, very very tight, very short, and more than just being for the functionality, or just making sure that your angles of approach and departure are what you want them to be. I just think from a proportion point of view, also it looks great. So and I even like the steel wheels. They have a lovely retro
Yeah. Yeah.
feel to it. So yeah, I think a lot of detail has gone into it, and I think even the dash, it's got a slightly workman-like design to it, very hardy, hard-wearing, a lot of stuff to keep everything. You had that shelf where our GoPros were on it all the time, throughout the drive. So we actually even tested how practical the cabin was, because when you go on a trip like this to Namibia, you've got lots of odds and ends, a lot of stuff generally which
I
you
know.
carry
Yeah.
basically by way of equipment, whether it's a selfie stick, a small tripod, batteries, chargers, all that, and there was just no problem keeping that. So yeah, in that sense, I kind of I just think what Jerry's done with the new design is pretty good.
Awesome. I think, I mean, you can say that I'm biased, but having had a Series 1, having had a 110, and now the new Defender, I kind of see a lot of similarity. I mean, just the way the vehicle, the stance of the vehicle, uh, you'll be surprised. The Series 1 I have has a tropical safari roof, a hardtop, and
Wow.
that has the same alpine lights which were in the Defender and which are now in the new Defender. So
Okay.
it's exactly the same alpine lights on the roof,
Yeah.
the roof line, and then the rear of the Defender, the new Defender, the back, the
Yeah.
absolute vertical back is exactly like how it was in the Defender, with
Yeah.
the swing away door and the rear mounted wheel, and
Yeah.
even the lights. The Defender, always, they never had a fancy light panel at the back. It
Yeah.
was two bulbs, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what's carried forward now with those two squarish LEDs. So I
Yeah.
I see a lot of a lot of legacy sort of the iconic design. Of course, it's refined way beyond imagination. Anyhow, we're just all waiting for it to come finally and sort of see what we can do. But having driven in Namibia, now when you would get a chance to get behind one in India, where is that one place where you would like to take it, Hormazd?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but for me, and it's not a test. It's not a question of testing the Defender to the max because it's a road which would be a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk for a lot of cars, to be honest. But is always for me is Mahabaleshwar.
Okay.
But in the monsoon, the roads can swallow small hatchbacks. So I think in that sense, the clearance, the suspension travel, I think we've not talked about that. Just a massive suspension travel to kind of soak up everything would really be very useful, especially for that last bit on the Poladpur Ghat, which gets chewed away. But I think off-roading. Well, I mean, there's just so many places. For me, I love the mountains, and clearly up north, Ladakh side is something where I would love to go. I haven't been there, to be honest, for years, but I think with a vehicle like this, definitely, really going. Probably, I don't know, maybe take it to the line of actual control and see the fun there.
Yeah, there's new things to discover. The new Shinkula Pass, which is open, which goes straight into Padam, and that's a tough one. You could try that, and lots of other interesting things to do in with the vehicle. I don't know. I mean, it's exactly what you said. There's no one particular spot that I can think of where I'd like to go with this, but uh, it's on the contrary. I'd love to take it everywhere. In the sense I now see this as a vehicle which is more complete. It's not just for one particular off-road patch. It's more like the go wherever, do whatever kind of vehicle. So I'd like to just drive it all over the country. I'd like to take it to Sandakphu. I'd like to take it to Ladakh, and just
Yeah,
anywhere wherever I want to be. It just seems so
but
rugged and
yeah,
durable, and that's the
but
key difference.
Ashish, that's what I'd like to ask you because, quite frankly, I think you know these sort of trails much more than I do. I mean, I've driven a lot on them, but I mean, you do this day in and day out. Where would you suggest I go if I had a chance to take the Defender? I mean, one road. What is
Well,
that? Is it Sandakphu? I know a lot of people
yeah,
talk about that, or is it such
yeah.
parts? Again, we did a story there some time back. That also looks really extreme. But yeah, if there's one road in terms of really testing this to the max,
I would say Sandakphu, without a doubt. Yeah,
right?
we should get that. We should get
Yeah,
you there and with the
yeah.
new Defender.
I know. I think you were there with my colleagues. I think Renuka and Chapu.
Yes,
Unfortunately, I couldn't
yes.
make that trip, but they were raving about it, and I think raving how well you ran the convoy also over there. And
Well, thank you.
so I think it got me thinking. Yeah, I've got to sometimes stop driving my desk too much and start driving more. And I think that's really something on my bucket list actually. So
Right.
yeah, I hope we can make that happen.
Definitely, we'll do that. But we can keep talking, Hormazd, about the Defender all day. But I think we should bring this to an end. And thank you so much. You added to my bucket list and made me, more eager to get my
And you
hands
to
behind.
mine.
And so thank you everyone for watching, and we look forward to seeing you at the launch of the
Yeah, look,
Defender in India. Thank you.
I
Thank
can't
you, Hormazd.
can't wait to take it on some really crazy drive here as well. But it'll be hard to top Namibia, I'll tell you that.
Obviously, obviously. Thank you, Hormazd. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.